Good Friday morning. It's Dr. Bill Williams on the Influencers Podcast, coming to you live from Atlanta, Georgia. We're here today to talk with a very interesting young lady, Alisha Turner, CEO of Ink by Lish and CEO of 𝘓𝘪𝘴𝘩 LLC. Her main focus is 𝘓𝘪𝘴𝘩, so we want to bring her in and talk about that. Welcome to the Influencers Podcast, Alisha.
Hello, thanks for having me.
Good. So you're up in Columbus, Ohio, are you?
Yes, I am.
A wonderful part of the world.
Yes. And you're in Georgia, right?
Atlanta, Georgia. Yes, nice. I am.
Very nice.
I was lucky enough to go up to Columbus once to teach a class back in the day when I was teaching dentists how to be better at orthodontics and TMJ.
Nice.
So I did make one nice trip into Columbus.
Nice. So you're familiar with the area a little bit? Love it?
Yeah, totally beautiful area of the world.
Nice.
Besides football, Ohio State. Everybody knows about Ohio, right?
Oh my goodness. Everybody is such a big Buckeye fan here. It's huge.
Buckeyes rule. That's
yes.
For sure. They've done the right things for so many years.
Oh,
now I went to Auburn, so, we play football down here pretty well, too.
Nice.
Let's talk about you. You got a lot of things you've been doing over the years. You've launched Ink by Lish. You're fixing to launch the 𝘓𝘪𝘴𝘩, which is what we're going to talk about mostly today. Tell us a little bit, too, when we get to the Q&A about Woman's Entrepreneur Network, World Top 1% Professional in Popl, Multi-Stream Mama. That sounds like an interesting combination, Multi-Stream Mama.
Yes, it is.
I'm going to let you give your origin story of how you got to this place. What was the trek like to get to the top?
Yeah, so I honestly think that whether we're looking at Ink by Lish or we're looking at 𝘓𝘪𝘴𝘩, a lot of it really had to do with my inspiration from my dad. So my dad was a really hard worker. He was a district manager for McDonald's and for Arby's. And then he went on to become an assistant manager with Sears. But he also was a photographer, and he did that on the side, had his own branding and ran his own business. And I always loved that. So my dad really cultivated my creativity skills. I remember him sitting me down at the head of our kitchen table when I was maybe 5 or 6, still in kindergarten. And he would teach me how to draw something in a realistic style, like a rose. And I didn't leave until I knew how to do it without him giving me tips.
Nice.
So he really cultivated my creativity, which was really helpful for Ink by Lish. But also I use that creativity in graphic design for 𝘓𝘪𝘴𝘩 as well when we're making the website and we're going through the branding and all of that. So I think that in combination with how my dad had his own business and how inspiring that was for me, seeing him take these photos, edit them, put his branding and his labeling on it. And then also he unfortunately passed in 2013. He was actually overworked to the point where he had a stress-induced heart attack. And unfortunately, they were not able to save him. But that's really pushed me even further into entrepreneurship. So I think that's kind of where all that motivation kind of stems from.
Yeah, you see the value of being your own boss for sure.
Yeah, absolutely.
Entrepreneur Network, and you've been recognized really by some groups for your work already. What was the reason they recognized you?
So Popl recognized me for having basically the most hits among the top 1% of all of the business owners who use Popl, which is basically like a link tree in a more professional layout, I suppose. And that was really exciting. So that's something that I've maintained for over a year now. So that's been great. And then when it comes to Dell Women's Entrepreneur Network, that's been really great too. So I was actually invited to that based off of some LinkedIn connections that I had made with some really professional and really inspiring people. And they invited me to check that out. And when I saw the kind of criteria that they had and the things that they were offering the community as far as helping you grow as an entrepreneur, it was a no-brainer.
So what was the thing you did to get to the top of Popl?
So with Popl, they basically almost like Instagram, they have their own analytics, which you can kind of go into your back office and see clicks and links and how long someone's on your website and things of that nature. So from the analytics standpoint, I think that I use giveaways for my tattoo business, and that really helps with getting people in and growing the following, but also being able to give back to my clientele as well. And then it also in turn leads people to fill out a tattoo application, which helps me grow the business more. So it's a
Wonderful.
big cycle.
So you had a strategy, it sounds like. You didn't just
Yes,
happen upon it, it was work.
right. Lots and lots of hours of brainstorming.
Very good. Now, everybody doesn't start off at the top. They got to build their way up and they don't always
Right.
succeed in something. So, do you have a failure story, something that you learned from? And how did you recover?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for asking that, by the way. So when I was in school, I went to Mount Vernon Nazarene University for graphic design, and I minored in psychology. And I had a professor who didn't exactly inspire me very much. I had a final review. It was a very big deal for all of the seniors having your final review. And I thought that I did well. My professor felt very much otherwise. So I really just hit a very hard point in my graphic design career, because at that point in time, I was already doing contract design work. So I got to the point where, I had been told, I don't think that this is for you. Maybe you need to go a different direction. I
Oh,
don't, yeah. There was a lot of negativity, I would say. But I actually used that for fuel instead. So I went on to one of our projects was to create a children's book series. So I went on to actually finish illustrating that series, and I got it published and we sold copies. So that
did
was
you send one
exciting.
to
A way to just like get back to it.
Did you send one to the professor?
I wanted to really bad.
Now, if other people are in the business, like graphic design or motivation, whatever, what reasons do you see them fail from your perspective? If you've seen others as you're working with them,
Yeah. I think that one of the biggest things, especially in any sort of, well, really in any business, but especially in like a creative business or a small business, I think that you have to be really big on setting boundaries. Um, that will really prevent burnout, and it can just really make a difference too in the organization of the business. So I would say when you're starting your business, part of that startup process should be navigating, okay, what does success look like for me? What is my end goal? And that should include not just how much you want to make, but also what does your weekly life look like? How much time are you going to have, or how much time are you giving? Are you going to be traveling a lot? Do you want to work from home? Like there's all sorts of different things to kind of consider. So I think mapping that out is a really big thing. I would say that the second mistake might be thinking of basically like the foundational blocks as separate instead of as one big wholesome piece. So I feel like a lot of times we as business owners get so focused on starting up that company, and which is a great moment, but at the same time we forget that the business values, our personal values, and our customer base or target audience values, they should actually be in alignment. They're not separate. It's one wholesome thing. And I think that we see that a lot in the economy today. There's a lot of very big companies, even on an international global scale, that have been losing like billions and billions of dollars and having to do layoffs or shut down certain locations due to everything that's going on in the world right now. And a lot of that cancel culture really comes from the values of your target audience or your customer base not aligning with your business values and your personal values. So when those are out of whack, it creates so much instability for any business. So I think that that's a really big mistake as well. I guess for the third mistake, I would say that it would be putting all your eggs in one basket, basically. Becoming dependent on one source of income, even if it's a really great source of income, it's something that you're passionate about. At the end of the day, for example, the tattoo business, when COVID happened, so many salons and businesses were shut down. Bars, restaurants, you name it, there was shutdowns where people had to start working remotely. There's always constantly something with the economy will always impact business. Whether you're the business owner or you're the worker, it just doesn't matter. It's going to impact you one way or the other. So there's really no way to navigate away from that. So instead, I think that it's just better to make sure that you're able to change with the times and just being able to make sure that your business is going to operate with those changes versus against them.
3 good reasons people fail, and you identified them well.
Thank you.
Yeah, I always wondered about this first when you talked about the boundaries.
Yes.
Personal values, the generations change,
Right.
I happen to be a boomer. You can tell by the color of the top of my head.
I've got some sprouting out myself, so no worries.
The things that you and I grew up with are different.
Yeah.
And so we have different value systems.
Mm-hmm.
We have the same goals, maybe.
Yeah.
But there's a different way to get to those things. And a lot of people didn't put boundaries together back in the day when I started out. Everybody was just going to work hard and do whatever it took to succeed. And now I think people want more of a balanced lifestyle.
Yeah, absolutely. Yes.
That's what I noticed. The younger generations that came along didn't buy into everything that was being done in the previous generations.
Right. Absolutely. I think we see that a lot too with even extremely large companies like Fortune 100 companies. We even see that too, and them trying to navigate, especially with COVID and then the Great Resignation. And we see DEIB is being more highlighted, and psychological safety is more important for business too. So I feel like we've kind of stepped into this new era where it's very catered to the people and the culture itself. So that's been really like a big shift too, I feel like.
Yeah. And a lot of people that are in the workforce now never went through the Vietnam War era, the peace protest, the race protest.
Right.
They never went through even the dot-com bust.
Right. Yeah.
And there's so many things that historically have happened that were up, down in business. Right. And the only one that they're familiar with, the new entries into the workforce, are the people that survived COVID.
Yeah. Yep.
And that was just one thing.
Yeah.
But there's been 5 or 6 just as bad.
Yeah. Right.
So what do you do when you're working, you're trying to develop, I take it a lot of your clients are young people.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So what is their main concern right now as far as where they want to go, and what motivates them to do something that's got meaning?
Yeah. So I feel like probably at least, I believe it's like 63% of my clientele base are Gen Z or millennial. And in talking with my clients, and I have very open dialogue with my clientele. So as far as my younger clientele goes, it seems to be that they want a really big balance of, okay, I want like the business side of things as far as benefits and pay and just like the work schedule itself is important. But then also I want to work somewhere where I can make a difference, where I can feel good about myself at the end of the day, where I feel passionate about something to where I'm not going to get burnt out, or on days where maybe I'm a little closer to burnt out, then I would like to be, I have the motivation to go there anyways because of that hidden meaning beside it.
Your motivation is what now? That makes you, want to get up and go to work every day?
Well, for me, I guess as a mom, a lot of it is providing for my family in that one aspect, which is something that I feel like we can all kind of relate to in some regard. But I think the other side of it is also creating sort of a legacy for the kids, not just in what we teach our kids, but also what we leave behind for them too. And then with moving from that, not just what we leave behind for our kids, but what we leave behind as a legacy to who we are and who we've been throughout our life, what kind of positive impact we've made, or solutions or innovative ideas have we put into the world? What have we done to leave a mark?
As we start talking about your business and what you do you have some success secrets, things that you do that others can model from, whether they're using AI or whether they're, interpersonal skills? What is your top secret that you like to promote?
So I would say this kind of goes back a little bit to what we were talking about earlier, but I would say one of the biggest things, and I just got off of a meeting yesterday with a mentor of mine named Roger, and we were actually talking about this, but I think that setting boundaries is really, really big. I would say that that's one of the biggest things that I do, setting boundaries. And then I would also say finding a way to balance your ability to be a person and to humanize the experience for your clientele or your customers or even your coworkers, if you're a leader or a director, the people under you, but also finding a balance between, okay, we also have to have some accountability. We have, our policy put in place for a particular reason. And there's situations and there's times where, especially as a business owner, there's times where, yeah, according to the policy, I should do this. But given the whole circumstance, I think it's fair to my client or my customer to actually just do this instead. So it's a lot of like navigating and balancing what's right for that particular circumstance and what's right for the business itself.
I use that analogy quite often when I deal with people, because they're all human. So we say firm in principle, flexible in procedure.
Oh, yep. That's a good one.
So your last secret is?
So I think that the third would definitely be hands down to have a circle of support. And that doesn't even have to be people who necessarily understand what you're going for or what really drives you per se. They don't have to work in your particular industry or understand the terms and whatnot. But just having a circle of people, whether that's family or friends or coworkers or some kind of community group that you have with other entrepreneurs, having some sort of community group that can, one, encourage and empower you, and they're going to stand for you and applaud you on days where you feel like no one else is those are really important days. But also someone that you can bounce ideas off of. It. You can rant if you've had a really bad day or you don't know what to do. They can kind of help you think through and process what you're feeling. So I would say that's a big thing.
I like that one especially.
Yeah.
In my profession of dentistry, we had local study clubs here that we joined, and what I found was that they didn't meet my needs totally because they were not set up on the same purpose and goal that I had. They were just in existence before I came along, and I just joined them.
Yeah.
And it wasn't until we actually formed study clubs based on what we were interested in with certain people, and not even just locally, but around the whole United States and Canada. We set up one study club that was totally committed to what we believed in. And I got so much enrichment from that.
Yeah.
Your circle of support is key. So I'm glad you brought that out, because when we do a influencer podcast, that one doesn't get brought up near enough by all the excellent guests that we have talking. So you hit a big one today.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm glad that I mentioned it.
You bet. Now, your motto for your company, 𝘓𝘪𝘴𝘩, what would that be?
So entrepreneurship is really, really big for 𝘓𝘪𝘴𝘩. So a big thing is real education for the future, especially for our future generations as well. So I think that in saying that the biggest key for 𝘓𝘪𝘴𝘩 is bringing education to the things outside of things like trigonometry and all the different sciences that we take, which of course can be super helpful depending on what area you go in life. But the things, the basics that we maybe might not have learned, or I know a lot of people that I went to school with, we never learned it. Even financial literacy, or how to start up a business, or how to brand, how to market, how to define your own idea of what success is, and just all of these little things that when they're missed become a very big thing.
You talked about 𝘓𝘓𝘴𝘩 as an educational situation. Now, you have these top skills that you talk about on your LinkedIn profile, of course.
Yes.
The business development, the marketing, the graphic design, leadership. What is 𝘓𝘓𝘴𝘩 in terms of these areas? Are you teaching content? Or are you setting up a platform for the teaching of content? What is your specific goal for 𝘓𝘓𝘴𝘩?
Yeah, so we are actually going to have an entrepreneurship education platform. There will also be an app for the community component as well as for the education component. So we'll be teaching everything through 3 sectors. We have a business sector, and that would go over things like leadership, starting up a business, and branding and marketing. And then which would also be that content creation piece. And then we also have the social component, or the culture component, which really goes over things like DEIB, or diversity, equity, and inclusion, the importance of psychological safety, how to build a brand that fits and aligns with your demographics and your target audience. And also just little things that probably should be known across the board for leaders and how to create a real community. But a lot of times it's not taught unless you maybe go to a university level to get that. And then our 3rd sector is self, which really focuses on that self-development, just because we want to make sure that all of our business owners who come through the education platform really have a solid work-life balance, and their goals are aligned with the journey to get there.
So you talk about 𝘓𝘓𝘴𝘩. When I ask you, why should somebody buy from you?
Yeah.
Would I be talking about the creator of content, or would I be talking about the consumer of content?
That's a really good question. So I think that they both kind of coincide together. But I would say probably more the consumer side, because I feel like the more we understand about the consumer side, the more we understand as business owners how to properly create for our target audience. And for example, nowadays, a big thing is like clean and organic and save no toxins. So if you are going into business and you have a product to launch, even if you're branding and the business component, your website, the processes, your inventory, everything is clear cut and good to go. If those ingredients, that ethical component, the personal component behind the business, the values and all of that is not aligned, a lot of times that's because there's a disconnect between the business owner and realizing, okay, not just what are the demographics for my target audience and my customer base, but what are they going through right now? What are their values? What are their priorities because of what they're going through? What are their realities? And what are my biases? So a lot of self-development work for business owners on that end.
Tell us who you'd want to be teaching the content. Who's going to put the content up?
So I would say that the ideal client would be someone who is very invested in personal growth, but also who, in a more of like a logical sense as well, understands the importance of having multiple streams of income, diversifying your income, but also building a lasting legacy. So, in a lot of regards, probably parents, people who are, even if they are not entrepreneurial in this moment, who are open to learning more. I think that those all fit the target audience.
So the people that are going to put the content up for the consumer to listen to, are they going to be paid people or donating to this platform? How are they doing interface with you?
Yeah, so the platform, so they can enroll into the platform and get all of the education components. And then they can also, as an affiliate, which is automatic, but as an affiliate, they can receive affiliate training, which will go over FTC compliance and authentic marketing and things of that nature, different marketing techniques. And then they can actually invite and refer people to the program, and they can receive totally up to them, either high ticket or low ticket, and it's also passive. So that will also help them learn. And while they're going through the course, they can also utilize the components that they're being taught to help them excel.
Very good. Are you doing any particular marketing to find the clients to come aboard?
Yes. So we are actually, we'll have a giveaway along with, and that giveaway will include $1,000 plus they will have free enrollment, as well as some surprise goodies. So we'll have that, and that is going to help us boost on launch day. And we also have a subscriber network for our founding affiliates. Founding affiliates receive a large discount of 60% off. So, because they're the backbone, so we want to make sure that we really give back to them as well. And we'll also be making sure that we, not just with the affiliates, but we'll also be making sure that we do things like conference every year. And we'll also have an inspiring entrepreneur magazine as well that we will be marketing through.
You're leveraging off of your notoriety and being top 1% with some high level things, it sounds like.
Yes.
What about your competition? Who is your competition and how are you going to best them?
Yeah. I guess that the competition could be seen in two different ways. So universities and, colleges and things of that nature, high schools, other education, standard education. But we kind of best that, especially on the university level, by making it way more affordable for people to actually get education and get what they need to succeed. But also, as they're progressing through the course, it's going to help them build their business as well. And then we also have our community group. So it's not just here you go, here's the education, and then do what you will with it. And then you're just gone. So we'll make sure to stay with each of our enrollments and always be there to support them as they progress through. And then I would say the other side of our competitors would be, I guess, like course sales, people who have their own course and they sell. And I know that for a certain amount of time, there was a really big increase in MMR, which is basically, it was a course where it was catered to specifically like branding and marketing. And they gave everyone who enrolled the rights to resell the course. So it came with master resale rights. But the problem with that was that it wasn't really packed with quality. It was more so focused on the, here you go, sign up and then refer other people. So with that, we really combat that because that's not what we want. So we really combat that by making sure that this is an actual platform. We have an app, we have a community app, And we're really making sure that it is a very wholesome course or enrollment platform.
You said the magic word when you said a quality product.
Yeah.
That's important in education, is to deliver something that's at the highest standards. How are you going to achieve high standards with your course content?
Yeah. So with the business component, I've actually been in and out of network marketing since I was 17. So started in there, got a lot of knowledge on network marketing and networking with people. And from that, I've had a lot of mentors over the years too. So I've learned a lot from them as well as, owning my own businesses. But I think that mentorship piece is really big too. And then also navigating things as I was doing my businesses and making these errors where I was like, oh, I wish I would have learned that earlier. I wish that someone would have told me that before. I wish I would have known about all these tax deductions and just all the different things that kind of fly under the radar. So I think that having experience in a very wide variety of different businesses over the years has been really good and allowed me to be in a space where I can collectively share that education and what I've learned over the years. And then also we can bring in people who have expertise in different things like DEIB and in completely different industries, but operating different businesses will be really huge. And then it almost becomes not just an education platform, but it also becomes a community where everyone can learn from each other and they can grow together.
Excellent. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
How is AI affecting your business, what you're trying to create, especially?
Yeah.
And how do you implement that now?
Yeah. So I think that AI can be used in a really positive way. There's been times where while we're working on the website and we're working on different components of the business and the content itself within the platform, where it's totally great to use some AI technology for things like, especially for writing. If you are a business owner who maybe you have a hard time putting your thoughts into words, you can use AI to help with that. I know a lot of people who use AI for basically figuring out and like brainstorming different content ideas on what to post, because at some point you might have a day where you're like, I don't know what to post. I don't know what to talk about. I don't know what to do for today. I don't know what the topic of the blog should be. So I think that it can be used to brainstorm too, and just finding a balance of, okay, let's use it as a tool, but let's also put our spin on it as well and like humanize it.
We found something useful for it this week in our business. I thought I would mention it.
Mm-hmm.
Sales and negotiation.
Nice. So what does that look like?
Well, it saved a sale that was difficult. It negotiated a deal that was positive for us.
Yeah.
So your brainchild of AI can do more than just write sentences. It can answer hard questions.
Yeah, absolutely. Yes.
So it's the way of the future. I guess if you want to have an educational process, you've got to include the training to how to use AI.
Yes, absolutely.
You talk about your platform. What's going to be the most valuable part of your platform? What feature are you going to bring to the future that people will say, this is really great?
Yeah. I think besides apart from the affiliate program, because I do know a lot of families that's going to positively impact, especially people who are new to entrepreneurship, kind of be able to dip their toes into it. But I also think like one of the biggest features that we have with our platform, besides the community and support network that we'll have with that as well, but apart from that, the focus on passive and the focus on essentially critical thinking for innovative solutions is really big. And the only reason that I say that is because if we look at our economy today, and just like we were talking about earlier, how as times change and just different things around the world change and different generational things change, there's also going to be a change and a shift in what the public wants and needs. So right now we're in this phase where the public wants and needs really safety as far as things like chemicals in our food and whatnot, and in products and things of that nature, and a more inclusive and diversified work culture. And so we see different issues coming up in this time. And I think that teaching people, especially business owners, about those and teaching them how to really align with those values that the public needs can really make a positive shift for ethical businesses.
Certainly understand that. Yeah, there's a real difference in generations between realism and idealism.
Yeah.
And so, there's a great shift going on. And I think that's more of a debate than it is truth. I mean, there's both sides to every coin.
Yeah.
Are you feeling like that we're shifting more to the realism after a shift into idealism, or are we still in the idealistic era?
I think that we're just entering more of a time where we're trying to figure out the balance of the two. Like, it feels like we're trying to navigate into the sweet spot zone. And there's just a little bit of like that process moment where we're trying to figure out, okay, what's the best way to navigate that?
Yeah, back in the day when I was coming up, they call it Pollyanna.
Yeah.
And, seeing the world as it would like to be but can't be
Right.
was Pollyannish. So that's always the thing that I warn people about that haven't been through the 5 or 10 cycles of business that I've seen.
Right.
The one cycle you've seen may not be the only cycle that matters.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Now, what features, you talk about your platform, and this is always the most interesting question. What is missing from the platforms today of teaching?
I would say that I was actually just talking to one of my good friends about this. But I would say something that is missing is making an education platform of any sort, really, but making the education more inclusive. So, for example, I also provide training with Ink by Lish. So I train other fine line artists. And with that, typically, a lot of tattoo artists will do like an apprenticeship, but that often requires months to years. And a lot of times it's not paid, which is obviously not realistic, especially in the economy right now.
Not particularly fair.
Yeah, exactly. Yes, it seems immoral. And then we have, on the other side of things, we have a lot of tattoo artists who are providing trainings, but it's like a 4 or 5 day training, and they are expected to travel for those 4 and 5 days, put themselves up in a hotel for 4 or 5 days. And that is also just not realistic, or does not seem fair to expect parents or people who work and pay bills every single month to be able to actually take the time and do that, on top of putting up thousands of dollars to be able to do that. So with Ink by Lish, when I created my training, I decided, you know what, even though I might get some heat for it, but even though I'm going to make this more of a hybrid. So we'll have the bulk of it online. The things that they can learn online will be online. And I also include business, branding, marketing, how to create all of that, and how to launch their business as well. So all of that component is online. They can do that. It's self-paced. so they can do it whenever they would like to, whatever works with them in their schedule. And then they can schedule one day to come in for model tattooing, and we'll go over all of the things and have a meeting afterwards, a little one-on-one session. And that's been really big. And I've had a lot of those students specifically thank me for thinking of doing that, because otherwise they wouldn't have been able to do it. And that's just the reality of things. But I think that that's something that education platforms a lot of times don't think about is, do we have logical expectations for what we want our students to do or complete, or the workload and just all of it.
So I had to ask a question. What model do they practice on at the courses you give?
Yeah, so they can bring a model with them if they have like a family or a friend or a coworker that is down to come in, then that's
a real person.
Yeah, exactly. And then if not, then I provide one for them just through my own clientele.
Now, sometimes I would go and do implant techniques on technique courses, and my models would be pig jaws or dogs that were already, past their day.
Yeah, right.
They were live. I didn't know if you would have pigs that you would do in not.
Oh, yeah. So part of the online training is I provide them stencils. So stencils are like pre-made designs that will be basically, they get printed on top of what's called fake skin, which is typically it's pig skin. And that it resembles more of the human skin. So it's the best way for them to get experience on tattooing skin as they're learning, as opposed to just starting on a real person who's going to be stuck with whatever you give them for the rest of their life.
It'd be more like prison tattoos if they didn't get going right.
Yes, that would be really bad.
Very interesting. I'm glad you had a little bit of experience with the pigs like I did.
Yes.
Tell me, what are you grateful for today, Alisha?
I am really, really grateful for my support network. So my husband, since we had this interview today, this great interview, great opportunity today, my husband took the kids. I have 3. So he took the kids and I drove out to my mom so I could have some silence for the interview. And she was happy to have me over, let me, just kind of get into my zone here, a nice quiet. And I literally wouldn't be where I am today if it wasn't for my mom, my sister, my husband, and just everyone who's been so supportive.
I love it. Support group, so important.
Yes, absolutely.
So if you're talking to your 20-year-old self back before you got successful, what would you tell yourself to do now?
I would tell myself to let it fuel you, not extinguish you. I feel like there's so many challenges, especially for when you're younger and you're growing up and you're going through things. There's always going to be a lot of really hard obstacles at some point in your life. So finding a way to let that increase your motivation and just ignite your fuel versus letting it completely deplete you.
Can't beat that. That's good. I like
think
it.
That's probably myself. Yes,
so
exactly.
When it's all said and done, what do you want to be remembered for, Alisha?
I think as a mom, I want to be remembered for just being a good person. But I think as a whole, leaving a legacy of leaving people better than you found them. I think that would probably be the best, both in a professional sense and in a personal sense as well.
I'm sure with your 𝘓𝘪𝘴𝘩, you're going to do a lot of education, and everybody's going to be better for it because of what you've taught them.
You. I really appreciate that.
You bet. I mean, as far as talking about that, how do we reach you to find out about these different programs, educational opportunities you offer? Is there a URL?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so we are actually 2 weeks away from launch now, and so we are finishing up some final touches on our website and getting the affiliate program all set up as well. And so right now we don't have our URL just yet, but they can reach me at hello@𝘓𝘪𝘴𝘩. And feel free to reach out if you have any questions, and I'm happy to send over a founding affiliate link where they can see a presentation. And I also do have a lot of informational things that they can check out as well regarding what we're going to have when we launch.
All right. Well, I'll also include the LinkedIn profile so that when you do get your final URL for 𝘓𝘪𝘴𝘩, it'll be, I'm sure, right on the LinkedIn.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
That way people will never fail to be able to find you.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you so much.
What would be your experience on the show today? How was it?
Oh, it was great. I will be very honest and just authentic about it. I was very nervous, but it was great. And thank you for this great opportunity and for making me feel comfortable. And it feels like just talking to somebody that I know. So that's wonderful. Thank you.
You bet. As an educator, I always enjoy finding out what other educators want to do.
Yeah.
I started teaching in 1981.
Nice.
And never did stop, actually.
That's the way to do it.
Yep. Still doing it.
Yes.
We'll give you the chance to speak to the audience. Your final word is whatever you'd like to say to the audience, and I'll be back when you're done.
Okay, sounds good. Well, I just wanted to thank everyone for watching, and hopefully I didn't bore anyone too bad. And I just wanted to wish you all the best of success, and hopefully you're all doing well in the world, wherever you are. I know that we have a very vast audience, so hopefully everyone is doing well.
Thank you, Alisha. Alisha Turner, CEO of 𝘓𝘪𝘴𝘩 and 𝘓𝘓𝘪𝘴𝘩 and many other things. We're so glad you're with us today. A woman of the world, Renaissance lady.
Thank you so much.
We've got freedom for everybody. And if you want to get in touch with me, go to the top QR code. That QR code can be created by something that I'm willing to give you. You know, that QR code will take you to my digital business card at 𝑂VU. On that business card, I focus on two things. And if you want to find out more about the Influencer Podcast, beyond the podcast, you can go to drbillwilliams.tv and request a pre-interview to be on the show. You'll also find out about our AI technology on the business card. And that's what we talk about on the bottom. If you want to go straight in, you can get all kinds of free products. 𝘓𝘪𝘴𝘓 is what made these QR codes. 𝘓𝘪𝘴𝘓 is what made the custom URL and made the short URL. So you have the capability of doing a lot of things with this particular piece of software that we give away for free. So I would encourage everybody who's looking for AI products that will increase your productivity, check out 𝘓𝘪𝘴𝘓.co, my name there, and you'll find many things. 𝑂Connect is our video conferencing software, our platform for communication. You're going to see this gaining much more traction because we just released it this week. And if you haven't seen it before, it's because it's brand new. And it'll compete with everything else out there, but be better. So keep an eye on that. And the last thing I'd like to mention is we have something that's also going to be free is 𝘓𝘓𝘪𝘴𝘓, which is a crowdfunding nonprofit support platform. So if somebody wants to start up a new company, help a church, help a NGO, something that's dear to their heart, you can use 𝘓𝘓𝘪𝘴𝘓 as part of that to do. And it's all available in the same place. So go ahead and get into the dashboard by joining for free and see what's all inside. It's available, and we're looking forward to sharing that with the world. Alisha, thank you for being with us. Thank you all that attended on the online platform around the world, 195 countries. We're always glad to have you in, and we're always glad to bring on our exciting guests that do such a good job. Thank you, Alisha.
Thank you so much.
All right. Good night, everybody. We'll see you around the world. Good evening, good morning, depending on what part of the world you're watching this. We'll see you on our next show next Monday.